3 years, 20,000 more U.S. troops, but not to Iraq or Afghanistan. According to Pentagon officials, these men and women will be stationed inside of the U.S. Thousands of additional uniformed men and women set to be trained by 2011. They'll serve as a response to a possible mass terror attack or civil unrest following an economic collapse. So how concerned are Americans about this?
20,000 more troops here in the U.S.?
I have not heard any of that, actually. No, I have not.
It's the first time I've heard of it.
Ben Friedman of the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank, explained what this bombshell will mean for the U.S.
Is this just the beginning of this expansion of presidential authority, of military authority here in the U.S.?
I hope not. We've seen the expansion of the use of the military within the United States for some time. A lot of the concern with this story about these troops being used for domestic purposes was that they would engage in law enforcement, arresting people, detaining them. They can't do that.
But that hasn't stopped people from speculating.
It doesn't seem right to have the military guarding the interior of the country. Seems like a dangerous power grab.
I think that would be extremely unreasonable.
Policing your own people sounds like we're in Afghanistan or something.
Even some foreigners, such as this South African political scientist, don't think it's such a good idea.
These are your citizens. They deserve your protection, but not to the extent that it becomes a militarized police state. I think we've had 8 years of that, and I think that's more than enough.
But the real concern might be that Americans are depending too much on U.S. troops.
What we should worry about is that the United States citizenry will become overly dependent on the military to deal with what are essentially government tasks.
You know, what scares me is what happens 25, 30 years, 40, 50 years from now. You know, after the population's gotten used to seeing the military guarding the streets.
Pentagon officials agree that the U.S. has undergone a dramatic change in its military culture. However, most Americans are hoping that the men and women in uniform will not confuse their responsibilities with that of law enforcement here in the U.S. Dina Gosofsky, RT, Washington, D.C.